Sports is very grateful to have Odwa Ndungane with us, another rugby legend, to chat about this beautiful game and what's been happening in the rugby world, and very interesting times in South Africa, and what a series we have on the go, and a lot more good rugby to come in the future. So it's great. Odwa, thank you so much for your time. But I just want to ask you first question: have you been enjoying all the mind games that have been going on in the rugby world recently?
Well, how's it, Ryan? Thanks so much for inviting me to the sports editor. And it's been quite interesting to watch, because I think it's something that you'd normally see from other sports like soccer and most other sports, but it's not something that's been huge in rugby. So it has been quite interesting. And when I think Warren Gatland first came out questioning the decision by World Rugby, it was a bit of a surprising thing, because, officiating has gone to a level where it doesn't really matter where the guy comes from, because he still needs to perform. And after every game, he sits in front of his boss and they review his game. So it's always in his best interest to put a good performance, because everyone wants to be involved in a test match. And then Rassie obviously came out and responded. And the funny thing is, though, I must say, is how everything else seems to roll on from the comments that are made in the week building up to the test match, where you see some of the calls perhaps would have normally gone the other way. They end up favoring the team that had a lot to say in that week. So it's possibly a tactic that has worked. But I see now there was a statement coming out that the World Rugby has put a probe into it. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that investigation.
Yeah, but knowing Rassie, and you'll probably know him better than what I do, but I think he's quite a clever chap in the sense that he won't say something unless he's really thought about it. And I think well, let me ask you this question. Do you think he's got a good defense if they say, no, but look what the ref did. Look what we spoke about this. Do you think he has got a bit of a defense, or do you think he could actually be in a bit of trouble here? What do you think?
Well, one thing I know is that he is very calculating, and he won't take a decision unless he knows that he's got a big chance or he's got a solid case behind it. And I think since he's taken over the Springboks in 2018, he's made certain decisions which most people would never take, would question. And I think the one thing about Rassie is very brave, and he believes in himself, and he believes in doing the right thing. So in this time around, I'm sure they would have gone through that game for many hours, and they would have seen the injustice that they felt was dealt to their team. And he felt it is right for him to stand up, because obviously he is the head of SA Rugby, and the Springboks are the main team in SA Rugby. So he felt he needed to stand up for what he felt the team got ill-treated. And he gave out his concerns, and he gave out things that he felt they were dealt unfairly with. So I'm pretty sure that he knows the rules, he knows the law, he knows what's right. And he would have consulted with his legal team before saying anything and before putting the video out. And we'll wait to hear what the outcome is. But I doubt he wouldn't have picked the heads of his legal team and understand what's at stake. But at the end of the day, if we look at the game, the second test, then you can't say it never worked out. It possibly worked out better for the Springboks, where there were a few calls where really you thought perhaps they were a bit lucky. Similar to last week or the first test, where there were calls where you felt perhaps if the Lions camp hadn't spoken out, the calls that they got wouldn't have gone their way. So it just proves again that the referees are also human, and they feel the pressure from the media, everyone else, the game, and it is a big series. It's one that happens every 12 years against the world champions. So there's a lot of attention on this series. So the pressure is on the referees, and they are human and they do make mistakes. But you just hope that at the end of the day, when we look back past on Sunday, or even going forward, it won't be a game decided by a match official, but rather the brilliance of the players on both sides.
Yeah, no, like what you said there. That would be brilliant rugby instead of this fighting to see trying to get underneath each other's skin to try and ruffle them up. Let's just play rugby. It's important.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
Yeah. But do you feel like maybe as a country we've always been a bit maybe too accepting, like if it's a 50-50 call, it goes against us. And you know what, as South Africans, we're good people, we let it go, we move on. So this was almost put a stamp in the ground saying, okay, now try to take us on. It's almost maybe made us a bit more competitive. Do you think it's made the players feel a bit more confident in the sense that, okay, actually, you know what, we know our rules, we play hard, and now we're going to play even harder. Do you think it's going to motivate the guys even a bit more?
I don't think we've been a nation that accepts things that don't go away. I believe that a lot of the players and the captains that have been before, even the current players, they understand the rules. And I know that they normally would have sessions where they bring in the referees to come explain any law changes or anything that the referees will be looking out for. So in that, a player can have the confidence to speak to his captain and say, this is not right. And the captain does have that opportunity to challenge a referee. So I definitely know that we are a nation and we have a team that loves the physical confrontation because it just brings out the best in us. And funny enough, I read a clip somewhere from the All Blacks coach saying how he fell asleep watching the Lions in the Box game. And the funny thing is, you know, that's what we are good at. We are good at being dominant. You know, Rassie has brought on the pressure game to the Springboks where they like to suffocate opposition. And I think in the second test, we did that perfectly, especially in the second half, where we just kept them deep in their half where they couldn't get out. And we just piled on the pressure. And once you pile on the pressure, the mauls start working, the scrums start working. And our game is based a lot around set piece dominance. And when we have that, I don't think there's a team in the world that can sustain the pressure that the Springboks have. And then you have a 10 that kicks over everything and converts it. So it's a balance that has worked and brought us the World Cup. And I don't see us changing going into this game. And we can tweak it there and there going to the championship and end of the year tour. So to answer your question, the guys will always bring the physicality. They'll always have it. And we just hope that our best players are always there. At the best, your Peter Steph, Dwayne is coming back now. Those are the guys that lead that whole physical confrontation. You would want them on the field and as fit and healthy as possible.
No, definitely. But it just seems like Springbok dominance is going to be there for a while, for a while now, based on the squad that some of the guys that you mentioned, the coaching, our defense structures. It seems like we should continue to dominate for a few more years, don't you think? I hope I'm not getting too far ahead of myself here, but it just seems like we're in a really good space at the moment with the type of rugby we play. I mean, yeah.
I agree with that, Ryan. If you look at the quality we have, however, I will say there are a few positions where I think we need to start growing our depth.
Yeah.
And if we just mention a few, if you look at number 7 and number 8, where Peter Steph is definitely by far, I think, ahead of everyone else that comes in there. But then again, you've got the Dupree twins who were part of the initial squad and we got sent home, and now Dan has been pulled back. And I think we will have to focus in also finding a replacement for Dwayne, because I'm not sure how long will Dwayne go on for, if he'll go to the next World Cup. I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
So I think perhaps the championship, he will be involved, but I think it's time to find a replacement. And I think Jasper Wiese has definitely got the inside lane. But then again, there are guys that are not even in the squad, like your Marcel Coutiers, and are quite also like Elrich Low from the Bulls. He's also another exciting youngster. And also the Sharks, they've got an exceptional youngster in Pepsi Buthelezi, who I think is definitely one for the future, who's also a leader. So I'm pretty sure Rassie and Jacques will be looking at building the depth in those key positions. So I agree with that. We can dominate for quite some time.
Yeah, definitely. Some really good names that you mentioned there. But yeah, it'll be good, and let's hope that's why we have the SA under 20, SA under setup.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's why we do it, and those guys carry through. But I mean, you do get a few late bloomers as well. But let's just hope our structure pays off. That's what I'm trying to say. It's anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
But it would be great now for the coaches, and I think this is their idea, that they want to win pretty much every single trophy available to them. Do you think that's possible? Is that something that they'd aim for?
Well, this weekend is definitely very important. And I think in the fact that it just builds momentum going into the championship. Looking at the first game, I believe that we were a bit undercooked, and I think you saw that in how we finished off the second half. And I think the mark of a quality team is how they just get better the more they play. And there is a significant difference in how we performed from the first test to the second test, in terms of how our set piece functioned, how we got dominance at scrums, and our defense has been a strength since Jacques and Rassie took over. In the beginning, you could see the guys struggling to understand the change of the rush defense, because you rush and come in. But now it's working, and everyone understands their role, because it's a very difficult system to introduce. But once the team has settled and they understand each other, and combinations are very key in that system. And if you look at the current squad, the guys are pretty young. They're in their 27, 28, and already they've got 50 test caps. So which is something which speaks volume of the experience, firstly, and then understanding that system. But as I mentioned earlier, it is important that we don't only focus on the current crop. We have a lot of talented youngsters that are knocking on the door. If I can just mention a few, you're looking at Willie Leroux, and he doesn't have long to go, maybe 4 or 5 years. But then there's Farsi that's there, who can comfortably take over. And I think it's more like a like for like with Willie, with the left foot, the X Factor player. And you look at the way they brought on Damien Willemse, which kind of like suits the role that Francois used to play. And I think if I can just mention the importance that a player like Willem does for the coaches in terms of selection, because having that player allows you to play around with your bench. Purely because of the number of positions that he covers. And we've always known Damien is a very talented player. However, I think now he's really grown and more confident in his ability. And you see how he just injects energy when he comes on,
Yeah.
and it makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
So I think just mentioning those few names, and also in the forwards, there's also a number of youngsters. See, now we've called an exciting hooker from the Bulls, Johan Grobler, who I'm a big fan of, and I think I've watched him since I think he came through for the Bulls. He reminds me of Scout Brits in a way. He's a nuggety hooker like that who gets around the park. He's very good with his basics. Also good on the ground, similar to what Malcolm Marx brings to the team. So I think we really are in a very healthy and good space.
Definitely. No, you summed it up there beautifully, Odwa. It's good. It's exciting. And I think that's what the country needs as well. Sport is so important, but it's great that rugby is, probably our most successful sport in the country, arguably.
Yeah.
Keeps doing well. I think that people need it. But one person, and maybe we could talk about one or two others, but Makazola Mapimpi, that guy, I mean, talk about a career that's just developed and blossomed. I mean, I remember watching him playing with the Southern Kings and thinking, oh, okay, here we go. Next thing is at the Sharks. Next thing is at South Africa. Brilliant. I mean, that guy must be one of the most inspiring players you've ever seen. And I'm sure there's a few other guys like Jason Colby who just almost get goosebumps when you say, hey, when he gets the ball, here we go. Something's going to happen. I mean, well, that certainly does for me, but I'm sure there's been players that you've enjoyed watching recently in the squad as well, like that, they've got energy, man. And like him, he's a good story. He's a good testament.
And I think there are players that are just naturally gifted, and they've got this sense of understanding the game and where they need to be at what time and in what position. And I think Mapimpi is one of those guys. You mentioned a Cheslin Colby. Whenever they do something, it seems like they're not trying too hard. It just comes off naturally. And Mapimpi he's got one thing that any outside back needs to have. That's out and out pace. And he's got an eye for a try line. And like you mentioned, from when he came through for the Kings, he was just scoring tries non-stop. And then he got taken, went to the Cheetahs, played in the Pro 14 or Pro 12 at the time, and he was just scoring non-stop. It never stops. And now he's sitting on 16 test matches and 15 tries, which is an amazing return for an outside, for a winger, So, and it doesn't seem like he's going to stop. Funny, I was chatting to my mates about Mapimpi, and then you wish like Mapimpi was only 22, because he seems like he's one of the guys that you would want to be around for the next 8, 9, 10 years, because he's so good and is so important in any team. And what Rassie has done for Mapimpi's career is huge, because it's what any player wants when a coach backs you. Because there were a lot of question marks around his aerial skills and his defense, but he's just come out on the other side and he's ticking all of those boxes. We saw in the weekend him winning a ball in the air against the Lions, and we can't question his finishing abilities. And defensively, he's also been very strong, So confidence is something that's amazing, and in that whole back line, and I think it makes a big difference having a guy like Lukhanyo Am on your inside. Lukhanyo is a very relaxed character and a very talented rugby player. He's got a very good rugby brain on him. He's a very good player. And I think that team is quite high on confidence in the way that they played in the second test. But it's very important that those pieces function, the set piece. And if we get on the front foot, if we get on top of the Lions, I don't think they can stay with us. if I just continue, if we look at the team that is selected, it makes for interesting reading, because it seems like they are going to go back to what worked for them when they played the provincial teams. Because if you look at the first test and the second test, they kicked quite a bit. This time around, I think they will try and hold the ball a lot more.
Okay.
And why I say that is because kicking is not their strength. We've seen from the first game that they played against Japan and all the time they played against provincial teams, they're pretty good with keeping ball in hand. And with that, they need that first ruck to get them over the advantage line. And perhaps that's why they brought Bandiaki into the team. And you also look at the selection on the bench. They've got Sam Simmons, who they rate to be a good loose forward who's very quick. And they've also got Finn Russell. So there's no one to come in and close out the game and control the game like a typical, more Northern Hemisphere test match fly half. But it's more positive, attack-orientated game plan. But we'll just get to see it on Saturday.
Yeah, it'll be great. Good contest.
Yeah.
And that's what rugby's all about. So it's good. You can't wait.
Yeah. yeah. Come, I'm excited. Also I think it's a kind of test match we need in this time. We've mentioned it's been a difficult time, and when the Springboks are playing and Springboks are playing well, I think the mood in the country just lifts.
Yeah.
And I think we are a proud nation that loves our sport. Take, for example, if you look at the Olympics, the way Tatiana won the gold medal and broke the world record, everyone just gets excited. And we need things or sport to just make us smile, just make us forget about all the challenges that we are facing. And had this weekend been a dead rubber, there wouldn't be this excitement around it. Unlike now, where it's more like another final. We looked forward to the World Cup final 2019 in November. And now here we go again in August. We're looking forward to what could be another massive final. So it should be a good weekend.
No, definitely. Awesome stuff. Yeah, here we go. It's all good.
Yeah.
But Odwa, it's been great to cover Springboks and what's been happening there. And glad they're in a good space. But I'm quite confident about, I don't know, domestic rugby. And why I say this, because I've been watching a bit of Currie Cup, and I think it's been some good games. And the guys are getting stuck in, and it's always nice to see guys who've played for Currie Cup, gone overseas and coming back. I think it's good for rugby in South Africa. I mean, Johan Goossens, he's been making headlines now, so he's been doing very, very well. But you didn't play for the Bulls, you played for the Sharks.
Yeah.
According to your brother, because I asked him this, he tackled harder than
this should be interesting.
He said he tackled harder than what you could tackle in matches. And I said to him, I don't know, because neither of you tackled me, so I couldn't tell.
Tackled harder. No, Ryan, I would rather not comment, because I don't even think tackling hard and having a corner, it can't be in the same sentence, because those two, I don't know what he was talking about. But anyway, I agree with you. The Currie Cup is always a platform where teams get to showcase the talent that we have on offer in South Africa. There's a lot of youngsters that get opportunities to put up their hand, and a lot of them have. And also you've got other older statesmen that come back and, having had the experience of playing overseas, come back and share the experience, because it is important to have that balance between experience and youth. And I think the Bulls have really set the mark and have been the example team the most important thing why I mentioned the Bulls is how they've been consistent. So with other teams, and I think that's where the challenge comes when you don't have enough experience in your squad. You don't you can't put good performances in a row. You have one good performance, other week it's a pretty average performance. You look at the Sharks, they go down to Cheetahs in Bloemfontein and they play amazing. And then you think when they come up against Griquas, it should be just a formality. But then it doesn't work out like that. So experience does play a big part. And I think Jake knows and understands that. And he signed Monet Steyn. And people were like, wow, Monet Steyn, really? Are you sure? And then we saw what he's done. And then he signed Johan Hussein. And now you see what Johan Hussein is doing for the Bulls. So for me, it is very important to always try and find that balance and have players that are experienced enough to make sure that when the times are tough, they can keep the team calm and obviously add a lot of value to the success of the team. And I think if you look at the Bulls, they have Lionel Mapu, they have Hussein, and then got Harold Foster. And also they got Marcel Coetzee up in the front and Lizo Koboka with youngsters around them. So the Bulls are in a very good space. So it's the Lions, for example, they don't have that experience in those key areas, which I think they've got a lot of exciting youngsters, but they're just missing that experience in those key areas. And you would possibly think that the Lions are in a rebuilding phase as they have lost quite a lot of experience. And the talent that's there, I think if they can hold on to it, the Lions can definitely get back to the same team that challenged, I think, 3 Super Rugby finals. But it's all about just making sure you try and keep that team together.
No, for sure, definitely. But then what do you feel is critical in the Sharks squad, especially with the next couple of fixtures coming up? So quite a critical time now, the Currie Cup. What's important for the squad to try and get right? I don't know, stick to the basics more. Where could they be, really sharp?
Well, I think the biggest thing, they would have been very disappointed with that performance. But, when I think to my time when I was there too, somehow that team from Kimberley used to give us a tough time. Every single time we played Griquas, it was always a game that somehow things just don't work out. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's mindset. But to come up against Griquas and they get, I think, 5 yellow cards in one game and they still beat you by 10 points would have been very disappointing, especially at home. But I think the biggest challenge for the Sharks, I don't know how you can fix that, is been the set piece. From the time that they've lost Ox and they've lost Thomas and also Fez Mbata. So the challenge that they have is they don't have a strong bench like most teams do, especially up front.
Okay.
And I think it was quite evident when we watched them against Griquas, where I think, I can't remember exact number, but Griquas got quite a lot of penalties from scrum time.
Yeah.
And they scored 2 tries from a rolling maul. So it just shows the dominance that they had in the pack. And the Sharks are a team that has very good backs and good loose forwards. But if your tight 5 is not firing, those backs and those loose forwards are not useful. So they've got that new coach, I think, from Romania, if I'm not mistaken. He's just arrived, so I'm sure he'll add a lot of value in helping them sort out their scrums, because that's been their Achilles heel.
Yeah, I think the Bulls are aiming to, like I asked the question earlier, win every single trophy. I think the Bulls are literally trying to win every single possible trophy that they can. It just seems like that's what they're going for. Because I think,
and
yeah,
and they can.
yeah,
And the biggest thing is when you've got a squad like that, you can be able to challenge for all the trophies. Because if Marcel is injured, you don't really miss him much because you've got the experience of Nizam Khan to come in and cover that
there we
with
go.
that exciting youngsters. Because and then you've also got Arno Bota, who's also in that squad. You look at the front row, you've got those youngsters that are there, but on the bench, you've got Lizo and you've got Jacques on the other tight end, where they come in with that experience and the team doesn't lose much. So you look at the Bulls, they have the squad because that's the most important thing for you to be challenging, to challenge all these trophies. They won, well, rather they just lost the final in Italy, but in South Africa, I don't think that there is a team that can really compete currently with the Bulls, with what I have seen, because of the quality they have at the Bulls and the confidence that they have. And obviously, they are quite clinical in how they go about their business. So it's no surprise that they are sitting pretty at the top of the log. I must say, though, I'm also liking how the Pumas are coming along. You
Yeah.
know, Pumas have always been there. You know, it's just a team that is always fighting above their weight. And you look at how they played against the Lions. I think Jimmy Stonehouse is an amazing coach. He's done so much for the team. He try with the limited resources that they have. They always put out a team that's very competitive. Every single big province knows when they're up against Pumas, they're up against a very tough, well-coached team that's going to keep coming for you at you for 80 minutes. It doesn't matter if same like how they played against the Lions. The Lions were all over them in the first half. You know, they were dominant at set piece and putting the Pumas under pressure, getting penalty after penalty. But Pumas never give away, never go away. You know, you can have a 20 or 15-point lead, but those guys, I don't know what Jimmy says to them at halftime, but whenever they come out, I like the fact that they come out with different jerseys. So for them, it's possibly just a brand new start. Let's go again. And you know, the one thing that is always difficult for them is that depth and that squad that I spoke about, because the tougher and the longer the competition goes, and they get injuries in key positions, and that's when they don't have the next guy that can come in and step up and still do a similar job, which I think the Bulls and to some extent the Sharks have that advantage.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just to chip in there, I saw this comment and I can't remember who made it, but they were saying that, you know, because the Pumas and Ricos are doing really well in Curry Cup. And they said, like, yeah, the Pumas and Ricos should have played the Lions instead of all the other franchise sides. So I was like, ouch,
Yeah,
that's
perhaps that would have been nice. You know, when they were still, instead of playing the Sharks twice, maybe they could have done an invitation team with the Lions and the Pumas combined.
There we go.
Because also, I mean, it's really good for rugby players to get that opportunity to play against the Lions, to swap jerseys, and also some of them might never play Test match rugby, but now they get that opportunity to play against Test match opposition, and you learn so much from that. Besides the result that all the teams got from playing against the Lions, but we speak about the youngsters in all these provinces, but what they would have learned from those games that they played, the intensity of the game, the physicality of the game, and also they would have picked up how those guys communicate and how they're always communicating amongst each other and making sure, you know, the work rate that they have. So those are things that you can't really talk about or teach, but players will see being done by teams or players that they've normally watched on TV. Now they're up against them, and they would feel the intensity, they would feel that physicality that perhaps they might not have felt before. So the experience that they would have taken out from those games is huge. And I think we missed the opportunity in giving those teams like the Pumas and the Griquas that platform where they can challenge themselves against a team like the Lions.
Yeah, well, maybe it's something to consider in the years to come. Although it's only 12 years, but yeah, well, maybe they can think of something else to make it more exciting for them. But yeah, you make a very good point. Very, very good point.
Maybe we must send in a video to Rassi.
I think so. As we sort of draw towards in, and I've got two more questions for you. And you're very successful rugby career. You're successful in business now. You're a busy man. But what's sort of one key principle for success in life? I know we're talking in rugby, but you're obviously a busy man. You're making business work for you. One key principle for success in life.
Ryan, that's a very interesting question. and I think, I always make the example of, or rather the comparison of sport and life. And I think those two go hand in hand in so many ways, because I believe the key to success is you gotta be hungry for what you want. And for that hunger, it gives you that drive to do stuff that, when the going gets tough and when things seem like they're not going your way, or when doors are being closed and you're just not cracking that deal, or you're not getting selected, the easiest thing is to make an excuse and say, maybe because it's this, or maybe because it's that. But when you have that hunger, no one else can deter you from achieving what you want. I'm a big believer in that we are all destined to get what we truly want. And we are our own pilots. It's up to us to, like I said, to make an excuse and take your plane a different direction, or you go through the turbulence, because turbulence will come across in life. In sport, you get turbulence when you have a long-term injury or you lose form. But those things are not permanent. They are temporary. Same like anything that might happen in the business world or in life, But as long as you have that drive to achieve what you want and never give up and not be deterred by anyone's opinion but yourself. So for me, I think that's the most important thing.
Wow, that's excellent. That's brilliant. I'll remember that one. Thank you, Odwa. That's great. No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's very important.
Yeah, good, man. Final one. I know we touched on it earlier, but are we looking at enough focus at junior development? And I'm saying that, are we going out there looking and seeing there's this chap who lives in a certain area, might not attend the best school, but are we looking and trying to get as much talent through the system as we can?
Well, I think SA Rugby does have those structures where they do a lot of scouting for talented youngsters, especially in disadvantaged areas. And I think if you look at the stories of Makazole Mambimbi and Sia, for example, then it does confirm that there's a lot of talent that needs to be unearthed and identified and given the opportunity. Because remember, we spoke earlier, we said we wish we had seen or met Makazole when he was 23. So I think now with those guys that are there now, the focus is being done on identifying that the talent and putting them in the right schools. And I have one concern though, in that school rugby must not lose the key focus of why we play rugby in school.
Yeah.
Play rugby in school to enjoy. Because I think the more we focus on, because it does seem to be getting too professional.
Oh, yeah.
Professional comes after school. At school, we need to let the guys and not put youngsters under immense pressure. That's why they end up going into the wrong decisions and doing wrong things because of all the pressure that we as fans, we as parents, and we as rugby people put on them. So that is just my one concern. And I think there has to be a lot more discussions around that in making sure that school rugby is meant to be enjoyed first and foremost, and the results come after. So for me, I do believe that in South Africa, we are blessed to have the pool of talent that keeps coming out. And but I would love to have a lot more focus around that discussion.
Yeah, well, maybe it's something to discuss because I mean, it is a big driving force, and I think a lot of schools use it as a marketing thing and say, "Look at us, look at our Springbok we've produced, look at etc. etc." But in the day, you also get some players that just want to play rugby because they enjoy the game. That's it, you know. So we mustn't, like you said, we mustn't lose heart to that. That's very important. And if we keep that, it supports club rugby because the guys have to go through club rugby before they make it into the Sharks, whoever it may be. So you make a very good point, Odwa. Very, very good.
But it is. And also the club system you mentioned, that's also a big feeder to the provinces, you know. So that it's unfortunate now that it's been on and off due to the regulations, but club rugby is very important in South Africa. And I think that's why South Africa has been so successful in breeding a lot of players. You mentioned earlier, there are players that are late bloomers who might not get the opportunities straight after school, but at 23, a guy might come out of club rugby and get spotted by a union, and then the next thing is a Bok at 27, you know. So that system of club rugby is very important to make sure that we never lose that. And also, you know, it's good for the community, the rugby community and the community around each and every province.
No, first class. Makes a lot of sense, all right. Thank you so much. Well,
pleasure, bud.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Some great words there and a great conversation. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Odwa.
I also enjoyed it. Thanks. And looking forward to the day when you invite me to your studio.
Amen. I'm telling you, we'll make it work.
Good man.
Look after yourself.
Yes. Thank you. You too. Thanks for your time.
Lekker man. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.